The Sharks make their biggest sets of cuts as they continue to get closer to their final 23-man roster.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everyday, all you have to do, just follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to get caught up on all the roster moves as the Sharks make a series of cuts, sending players down to the Barracuda. They put guys on waivers. So we're going to go through all that. We're going to look at who's left on the roster and then try to kind of project who we think is who's safe for the final 23, who's on the bubble, all that fun stuff. So before we get to all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So, big day, as we kind of talked about yesterday, after yesterday's game, right? We expected to see some cuts. We knew yesterday's roster for the game against the Ducks was very AHL heavy, and especially with the Sharks now having 3 games in 4 days, right? Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Getting some of these AHL guys some experience here, and then getting them into Barracuda camp as well. We knew that some of these moves were going to be coming. So we'll start with the easy moves here as guys who were sent down, who did not have to clear through waivers. So we knew, so the forwards, Philip said Egor Chernyshov, we knew about that last night before the game. Those guys have been sent down. Kasper Holttunen, who is on his ELC, and Oliver Wahlstrom. Just a reminder with Wahlstrom, he was with the Sharks on a PTO, but has signed an AHL deal. So since he had already signed an AHL deal, he's not on an NHL contract. He can go down to the Barracuda without having to go through the waivers process. Now, if he eventually signs an NHL deal, he'll have to clear waivers to go down to the Barracuda at some point. But again, he was on the NHL roster because he was there as a PTO. But with the kind of knowing if he won a job out of camp, they would sign him to an NHL contract. Clearly did not win a job out of camp. He'll be playing with the Barracuda right now on an AHL only roster contract. Sorry, so that's why he did not have to go on waivers. Defensemen Cole Clayton, Jake Furlong, and Braden Hachey. All these guys sent down to the Barracuda. They're not waivers, they are waivers exempt, able to get to go down. And then Gabe Carrier and Matt Davis. Matt Davis also on an AHL only contract. Same thing with Braden Hachey, AHL that they were able to go down and play with the Barracuda without not having to clear through waivers. Gabe Carrier doesn't have enough games under his belt to go through the waivers process. So that is the kind of the first step in the moves here for the Sharks as they continue again to get down to their 23-man roster. So the Sharks also made a series of placed a bunch of players onto waivers. And again, so what happens is with the waivers, all these players are put out there. Any team in the NHL can put in a claim for said player. If that player gets claimed, they get assigned to their new team's NHL roster. So if they go unclaimed, these players can go down to the AHL. And then if they need to get called up, they can be called up as well. So the Sharks placed forward Shane Bowers, forwards Jimmy Huntington, forwards Samuel LeBerge, forward Oscar Olesen, and then goalie Jacob Skarek on waivers with the intention of placing these guys on the AHL roster with the San Jose Barracuda. We have yet among these kind of early season claim, waivers, we have yet to get a waiver claim. And none of these guys I'm looking at here, I'm feeling should have any issue going through waivers, right? Skarek, who has 2 NHL games, under his belt. Oscar Olsson, who is basically a trade between here you want our prospect who needs a fresh set, kind of needs a new experience, and we'll trade you ours for yours between Olsson and Daniel Gushin. Jimmy Huntington has been kind of a career AHL type of player. Like, none of these guys I feel like are in any danger to be claimed. I would be actually shocked if any of them actually do get claimed. They do get claimed. It does help though with your you have to clear a contract, especially if Dickinson or Misa are on the team. But I'm not expecting any of these guys to. I'm not kind of worried about it. So that's kind of the first set of moves here as the Sharks continue to kind of work towards getting to this 23-man roster. And again, this has to be done, I believe it's by Monday, where they have to turn in their opening night roster and be compliant, right? And that is with 23 players on your roster and also being cap compliant. We know, of course, the Sharks don't have to worry about being cap compliant. They have plenty of cap space. And they have plenty of cap buffer between the cap floor and where they're at right now, and they have plenty of space between where they're at and the ceiling. So, we'll continue to see more of these cuts as, I would expect we might see a couple here and there, but we'll probably see a majority of them after Saturday's game, that kind of Sunday, Monday, as the Sharks kind of make their final cuts and start to get to, kind of get that roster, kind of filled out. We know, of course, a couple players, right, like Logan Couture and Carey Price. Those guys are on IR. They'll be placed on IR if they're not already on IR. I'm not sure when they have to put them on IR, but those guys we know will count towards the Sharks contracts with their 50 contract limits, but they will not count towards their 23-man roster. Like, you don't have to worry about, especially with both those players where placing them on IR, they're not going to count towards your kind of 23 person slot, like active roster with those 2 players. So just, again, we're kind of going through the nitty gritty here of kind of not the contracts, but of the building out the rosters and all that fun stuff. Like, we're kind of going through the nitty gritty of it right now. And this is just kind of part of the process here for the Sharks as they, are working towards this, opening night roster. So we're going to look at who's actually left on the roster now, and kind of how the lines were at practice today, as we had a little bit of a scrimmage between the 2 groups. And so we're going to kind of look at how the lines are and what we should maybe start to expect for some of the games here coming up the rest of the week. And then at the end of the show, we'll talk kind of who my 23-man roster, or at least what I think it's going to be for San Jose again, we're getting close to the opening night of the regular season. So we'll get to all that here in just one second. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives, and if you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is there for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. The great thing about it is they also can help you maximize investments and work with your partner, whether if you guys have separate accounts, but you're working towards a shared goal, whether it's buying a house, buying a car, just planning your next adventure. They make it super easy to collaborate together. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. All right, before we continue, of course, want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast. Steal and Flip provide daily fantasy tips to give you the edge over your league mates, all while making you a smarter hockey fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, who's left? Which is a great question. All right, as we're seeing a bunch of names kind of getting put through here, who is actually left on the Sharks roster? So, going alphabetically by last name, we'll go through the entire list here of players who are still with the San Jose Sharks. So Egor Afanasyev, who I thought had a really solid, kind of quiet. I don't want to say quiet, but just like a really solid preseason so far. He's still hanging around. A guy who will have to go through waivers. Ethan Cardwell, good to see him hanging around. Macklin Celebrini, of course. Ty Dellandrea, William Eklund, Adam Gaudette, Patrick Giles. So quickly with Giles, right? He has been injured, and it's been kind of week to week with him. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts the season on injured reserve, right? Where he'll count towards your 50 contracts, but he won't count towards your 23-man roster. And then once he's ready to go, you can activate him, waive him, and get him down to the Barracuda, where I think he'll start the season, and as he kind of works back from an injury. If you feel like he's good enough or in a good enough position to kind of fight for one of these NHL jobs, you could send him down to the AHL on a reconditioning stint. And then once he kind of works his way through that, then you could bring him back up to the NHL. But I think for Giles, kind of the most likely path for him is he'll probably start on IR, and then once he's healthy, he'll get waived and get sent down. Assuming he clears waivers, gets sent down to the Barracuda. So, all right, Barclay Goodrow, Colin Graff, Carl Grundström, Donovan Hoole, another guy who has been injured, also on an AHL only contract. Same thing. I assume once he's just going to, maybe he starts it on IR. Once he's healthy, he'll just get sent down to the Barracuda. Does not need to go through waivers since, again, he is on an AHL only contract. With that, Philip Kurashev, Cam Lunn, Michael Misa, Quentin Musty, Zach Ostapchuk, Ryan Reeves, Pavel Regenda, Jeff Skinner, Will Smith, Tyler Toffoli, Alex Wenberg, and Colin White. White, also another injured guy who will need to clear waivers to go down to the AHL. So again, we'll kind of see. I think this week or so is kind of a big week for guys like White and Hoole, and then Patrick Giles, to see if they can start kind of getting back on the ice and start kind of ramping things up here. But yeah, all those guys, again, I wouldn't be surprised if they start on IR if you need to. And then once they're back, you can send them down to the AHL. Defensively, the Sharks have a few 11 defensemen here. Luca Cagnoni, Lucas Carlson, Vinny Desharnais, Sam Dickinson, Mario Ferraro, John Klingberg, Nick Leddy, Timothy Liljegren, Shakir Mukhamadullin, Dmitry Orlov, and Jack Thompson. And Klingberg got back on the ice today. We'll talk about him, in a second. So good to see, all these guys are kind of, your guys who have legitimate, claims to be on the NHL roster, some more than others, of course. But like you kind of really pared down this group defensively of who you expect to kind of fighting for the NHL jobs here. And then the goaltenders, Askarov and Nedeljkovic are the only two left actually on the roster for the Sharks. Don't be surprised, right? If Skarek, you could do, like, don't be surprised if the Sharks recall either Skarek or Carrier before this weekend's games, right? Especially when you have a back-to-back on Friday, Saturday. Don't be surprised if the Sharks recall one of those just to give yourself a little bit extra, like, because especially in the training camp preseason, you could have extra guys on the roster right now. And if you're traveling, if something happens, right, if Askarov or Nedeljkovic, God forbid, something, knock on wood, something happens to him, you can just have one of these guys with you, having either Carrier or Skarek available there. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, if one of those guys gets recalled before the weekend's game. So the lines for practice, though. So I think this gives us a good, like, who's in good spots right now and such. So per Max Miller, so the first group we had Kurashev, Celebrini, Smith. So Musty had been up there for a little bit, but Kurashev, who he kind of feels more like a lock, playing up there right now. Skinner, Wenberg, Graf, Musty, Dellandrea, Cam Lund, and then Ethan Cardwell rotating in there as well. Defensively, Letty, Klingberg. So good to see Klingberg back. Dickinson, Desharnais. So guys on the bubbles there. And same thing with Jack Thompson. Also, Celebrini did practice today in the scrimmage as well. Still wearing the non-contact jersey. So, but still, well, baby steps here, baby steps. So again, like I said, Wednesday, I think is a big day if he sheds the non-contact jersey, by then, and hopefully he can get him into a game this weekend. So preferably not the Utah game. We don't want what happened last year. The other group, Toffoli, Misa, Eklund, Barclay Goodrow, Adam Gaudette, Ryan Reeves, and then Carl Grundström, Ostapchuk, Regenda, Afanasyev, kind of rotating there with Ferraro Orlov, Muka Madolin, Liljegren, and Luca Cagnoni as well. So, yes, so that is the groups right now. So let's Misa again, who's kind of been a big story, right? And Misa and Dickinson, that's always kind of who we lead off with whenever those guys play. But Misa, who by Curtis Pashelka said was probably one of the best players on the ice today for the San Jose Sharks. That's your 2C. Like, I know, like, people could maybe, I've heard some people, well, why don't you make him the 3C? Look at who he's playing with, right? He's playing with William Eklund and Tyler Toffoli, or like he's been playing with guys who are legitimate top 6 players. So if you were going to make him the 3C, wouldn't you put him with guys like Graf or Gaudette or like some of these other guys who are going to be more likely in the bottom 6 here? I think Michael Misa is your 2C. I still feel like he's as close to a lot. I think you'd have to have a horrible 3 games here. And we'll see how many of the games he actually gets into, but I would assume he gets into at least 2. Oh, Jonathan Kuminga finally signed. Good for the Warriors and Kuminga to finally get through this. But anyway, I think Misa's an absolute lock. I think even if he has a horrible kind of final games of the preseason, I still think the Sharks are going to try to find a way to navigate. But from what we've seen from him, right, again, you haven't really seen the production as much, but you're seeing all the little things, right? And I'm willing to bet the production is going to come. If he continues to play the way that he's playing hard, the back checking, the kind of the details, all that type of stuff, the production will come with Michael Misa. So I'm 100% not worried about Misa's lack of production in the preseason here. I know there's some other rookies who've been lighting up, but like I know Brady Martin's had a really nice camp over in Nashville. Again, not worried about it. I feel like the foundation for Misa is so strong, and like just the floor for like how well I think he's going to play. I'm not saying Celebrini but I think he can come in and have an instant impact for San Jose, and the production will come. So who do I think? As of we're almost a week away from, I guess we're less than a week from the final roster, a little over a week until the first game. Who do I think makes the final 23? We're going to get into that here in just 1 second. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Right now, like Christian McCaffrey receptions on Thursday, I'm just slammed the over. The Niners have nobody else to catch the ball. And I think Christian McCaffrey is going to catch a lot of checkdowns between either, even if it's Mac Jones or Brock Purdy. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to have a very busy night on Thursday night. So, but I love how FanDuel gives you so many different ways to play. Built-in parlays, they have player props, or you can jump into the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. I'm also super excited to tell you about my new favorite pair of jeans wear. I've been living in Dewar's Performance Denim straight jeans, and honestly, they've completely changed the game for me. I love my Dewar jeans because, one, they look great, right? And you want to wear pants that make you feel like they look good. But two, they're extremely comfortable. They have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. They feel stretchy without actually looking stretchy, which is very important. Dewar combines classic jeanswear style with the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. It's the best of both worlds. And there's a reason why they call them the world's most comfortable pants. Don't take my word for it. Go try a pair on yourself. Dewar just opened a store right here in Hayes Valley, so you can feel the difference firsthand. Go check them out on 567 Hayes Street. Mention our promo code LOCKEDONSF in store to get 15% off your first order, or check them out online at shopdewar.com/LockedOnSF for 15% off. That's shopdewar.com/LockedOnSF. All right. Who makes the final 23? So let's go through who I think are absolute locks for your San Jose Sharks. And we'll start with the forward group here. So I think it's pretty safe to say, based on contract, based on play, et cetera, we'll go alphabetically by last name. Macklin Celebrini, block to make the roster, right? Not Ty Dellandrea. William Eklund, lock to make the roster. I think Adam Gaudette, lock to make the roster. Barclay Goodrow, his contract at $3.6 million, lock to make the roster. Philip Kurashev, I think, is a lock to make the roster. That's 5 right now. Michael Misa, I think, is a lock to make the roster. Jeff Skinner, Will Smith, Tyler Toffoli, and Alex Wenberg. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 forwards right there. So we're at 10, right? And usually you either carry 13 forwards, 8 defensemen, or you carry 14 forwards with 7 defensemen. But I think the Sharks, to be honest, I think the Sharks carry 8 defensemen, especially assuming Sam Dickinson makes the team. and we're going to kind of assume that Sam Dickinson at least makes the team out of training camp. So that's the model we're going to go with right now is 8 defensemen and 13 forwards. That gives you 3 spots here to kind of, fill out the rest of the roster. So guys I didn't name: Dellandrea. I didn't name Carl Grundström. I didn't name Quentin Musty. I didn't name Ryan Reeves among like kind of the big names there. And then, so I think a lot of the young guys, your like Afanasyev, I think will make the team, even though I think he's been very good. I think he'll probably start the season in the AHL. You look at, did I mention Colin Graff? Graff, I think, Graff he's not on this list, is he? No, he's not on the list. Give me Colin Graff. I think Graff's a lock. So that's 11 forwards right there. They have him, looking at Puckpedia, they have him down still in the non-roster. I think Colin Graff is an absolute lock to make this roster. So I think Lund is going to be down there. I think Musty's going to be down in the AHL. Both those guys, waivers exempt. So I think the 2 guys who make it, again, if we're going 13, I think is Ty Dellandrea, who had a really great game. And we heard how much Warsofsky raved about his game post Tuesday night. So I think Warsofsky and I think Ryan Reeves are your 2 extra guys there. And Ryan Reeves is probably going to be your healthy scratch. Or you bring him in if they're playing somebody who's got, a bone to pick with the Sharks or something like that. So those are my 13, right? So Celebrini, Dellandrea, Eklund, Gaudette, Goodrow, Graff, Kurashev, Misa, Reeves, Skinner, Smith, Toffoli, Wenberg. That's 13 forwards right there. That I think that's what they break camp with. And then, Musty, who's had a great camp. Again, let him go dominate in the AHL for a little bit before bringing him up. Carl Grundström, you look to put on waivers. Then you kind of have to eat like $700 of his cap space while he's down on the AHL if nobody claims him. Same thing with Afanasyev. You can, put him down on waivers and send him down to the AHL as well. So, or maybe Afanasyev is a guy you look to trade to unload your kind of cap situation. Maybe that's a guy, one of those type of guys. So defensively, again, we have 11 guys here. Got to get to 8. I think Lucas Carlson, we'll see with him. Again, like with the injury thing, maybe he's an IR type of candidate. So even if that's so, we'll count him as an AHL guy. Like he's an AHL guy, right? Unfortunately, I think Cagnoni, as much as, and we talked about yesterday, is like as much as I'd want to have Luca Cagnoni on my team because I think Luca Cagnoni is awesome. I still think they're going to, like, he gets called up, I want him to be like, that's it. Like, you are an NHL player type. Kind of like what we saw with Colin Graff, right? Let him marinate half a season, see what happens, right? As guys kind of get. So I think Cagnoni. And then I think Jack Thompson is the other one who by all accounts, has kind of had a little bit of an up and down season. Thompson will have to go through the waivers process. So that will give you Darnay's, Dickinson, Ferraro, Klingberg, Leddy, Liljegren, Mukhamadullin, Orlov. So 13 plus 8 is 21. And then you have Askarov and Nedeljkovic. So I think that right now is my 23 for the Sharks. So, and then you can kind of rotate, with Dickinson, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of slow play it, try to kind of stretch out those first 9 games as much as possible. So like no back-to-backs type of thing, and let him, continue to kind of ramp up and get used to the NHL. I wouldn't be surprised if they slow play it as much as they possibly can without actively hurting his development. And then you kind of bring in Dickinson for, guy like if it's Liljegren or, kind of whomever. I think Dickinson kind of is the guy who rotates in until he's kind of until you're ready to make a decision on him. So, but yeah, that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow to react to the Sharks Ducks Part 2 with a much more NHL roster from San Jose. So make sure you follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and TikTok, of course, at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.